Hi, Eunice.
Hi, Sabrina.
So we are here to give you a little behind the scenes peek at our brand new book, The Cosmic Adventures of Astrid and Stella, Comet Together. This is the fourth book in our series about Astrid and Stella, a unicorn and flying squirrel, respectively, in space with their robot sidekick Bobo on their ship, the Friendship. So in Comet Together, we have three different chapters. The first chapter is called Comet Together, and it's about creative collaboration.
So, a lot like our relationship and how we collaborate.
Exactly. So we're sisters, and we have collaborated on 25 or more books together, where I do the writing and Eunice does the illustration. So we thought it would be really fun to bring this into the story, where Stella does the writing and Astrid does the illustration. Mm-hmm. So it all starts out when they are incredibly bored because they've read all of their comic books a million times.
This was really fun to illustrate because I was really channeling like how I remember feeling when I was a little kid, like just like, oh, so bored.
Yeah,
that kind of feeling.
Yeah, the illustrations are fantastic. And so Stella decides to write and give her book to Astrid to illustrate, and they think that they're going to collaborate on making their own comic book. But unfortunately, Stella's a little disappointed with some of Astrid's drawings and gives her some very unskillful feedback.
Yes, maybe a little blunt.
Yes, exactly. So Astrid gets really defensive and frustrated, and they decide they're just going to go their own separate ways and each make their own comic books. So Astrid's going to write and draw, and so is Stella. So they go their separate ways, and of course, each of them has their own lane and their own strengths. So Astrid's not that great at storytelling. Her story is a little
Astrid's
random.
comic is like all just like cool things to draw with like very little actual storyline.
And Stella's has a really interesting, exciting story, but her drawings are all stick figures. So they bring their creations to Bobo and try to get feedback from him, and he's very diplomatic, but they realize that basically what they've been able to create individually is just nowhere near what they were imagining. So Bobo comforts them and does a little flashback to his childhood, where he himself realized that he loved to invent things, but he didn't like messy crafts like making macaroni necklaces.
He's a robot after all. He likes getting like glue and stuff in your bits.
Exactly. So with that little pep talk, they realize that they need to give collaboration a try again, and they create some amazing collaborative comic books.
Yep.
And
teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work, and they end up sharing their comic books at a book fair on planet Libris. So that is the first chapter. We had so much fun drawing it, especially Eunice did such a funny and hilarious job creating their own illustration styles. We also show the creative process of each of them in these cool montages, which are very much inspired by how Eunice and I actually create our own work.
Roller skating, the best place for thinking.
Yes. So the second chapter is called What on Earth? And this chapter is all about AI. We decided to focus on the theme of AI because it's in the news and kids are obviously getting exposed to it no matter how young they are. They might be trying AI at home. They might be learning about it at school. And there's just a lot of anxiety about what AI is going to do and what it's going to mean. So we wanted to explore this in a super funny and kid-friendly way. So the way that this story opens is that Stella gets a news report from Earth about how AI is evil and is going to take over the world and how robots are bad.
But Bobo is a robot. And he's like their best friend and confidant.
Exactly. So they freak out and they're going, oh my gosh, how could this be possible? How could Bobo be bad?
Is Bobo evil?
Is Bobo evil? Bobo wisely reassures them that that is not the case. And he decides to take them to 3 separate planets where they basically get to experience 3 different AI scenarios or futures. In the first planet called Chilala, everybody is super chill and it's populated by artists, and they've all decided to use AI to kind of give away their creativity. So in particular, they meet this artist named Cheetah Paulo.
Yes, inspired by Frida Kahlo, including monobrow and fabulous self-portraits.
There's a little
art history in there. Yeah,
exactly.
Sneaky art history.
Yeah, and she has decided to stop doing her own paintings, which is really, really sad to them, right? And then Bobo takes them to the second planet, which is called Fracas. And this is where Evil Screenius, a familiar sort of evil villain from book 3, has reappeared, and he's decided to basically mobilize all the robots to have these epic bot battles, which they find to be really disturbing and kind of aggressive and scary, although also kind of funny because they're
fighting with pie. So
yeah, they're fighting with ice cream
pie.
The
stakes aren't really that high. But,
exactly. But they're also seeing how this is just terrible.
Conflict all the time being really unpleasant.
So they leave that And finally, Bobo takes them to Jolly X, which happens to be his home planet where he grew up. And one of Bobo's taglines is "at your service," which he says a lot. And we learn that this is actually what he learned at his home planet. We meet his dad, Nobo, and we learn that all the planets, all the robots here have an "at your service" attitude or mentality. And so everybody gets along peacefully. The robots are all very helpful, and they really help create a more friendly environment, a friendly universe. So they come away feeling reassured about AI and about basically any kind of technology, that it can be used for good if the intentions are positive and if the impact is positive. So we leave the reader with that positive, uplifting, and hopeful sort of wisdom or lesson about technology. The final chapter of Comet Together is called Time Travel Tiger, in which we introduce a brand new character named Time Travel Tiger. The theme of this chapter is really around having respect for differences in a culture that you don't understand, and being creative and kind in that context. So in this story, Astrid and Stella decide to land on a planet called Teutonia, in which which is totally populated by these birds that talk out of their butts with toots. And there are all these...
That was kind of fun to draw.
Yes. And there are all these trees that have these gorgeous, very appealing gem-like fruits. And so, of course, Astrid and Stella really want some of those gem-like fruits, but they're aware that they can't just take them. They need to figure out a way to communicate with the Toodles, which are the name of the birds, in order to be able to get some of the fruits. And so in comes Time Travel Tiger through a portal. It turns out Time Travel Tiger is a time-traveling tiger who goes to different planets and different eras in time.
Sort of like a historian of things.
Yes, he's a historian of inventions. So he scans them into this database called the Wizmo, where he collects all these inventions and is able to share this knowledge with people from all over the universe. And so he helps them identify a kazoo and learn all about how a kazoo was invented as a means to communicate with the Toodle through its tooting noises.
You know,
and then
similar to talking at your butt.
Exactly. And then he also reveals to them or shares with them the invention of the hammock, which is also very interesting, by the way, which they are able to create their own hammock on their Craft Cart 5000 and present the hammock to the Toodles as a gift in exchange for some of the fruits, because the Toodles can use the hammock to collect fruits, which they're very happy about. So this is how the story
ends.
Take
naps in, maybe.
Yeah, maybe take naps. So they get some of their fruits, they go back, they meet Time Travel Tiger, and then they go back and blast off in the friendship. And there's just a lovely lesson in there about how to navigate a situation when you cannot communicate with other people and need to find a way to create reciprocity.
Plus, you get to learn how kazoos are made or invented.
Exactly.